So, on this journey in Christian theology, as Maria von Trapp says in The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. I could sing, but that might frighten you. If you like, the Christian theological conversation begins with Genesis, which itself means origins or beginnings. Now, we are inclined to think about the Bible as this finished article, a book, but we need to remember that the Bible is basically a library. It's a collection of writings, and it's more thoughtful or more instructive to think of Genesis as one book, Exodus, Leviticus as another two books, or Numbers and Deuteronomy as separate books. To think about these separate books, we just happen to have put them together into a binding, but they're different books with different styles and different themes and different conversations. So we've got this collection of writings, and they begin with an ancient meditation on God. In the beginning, Bereshit bara Elohim hashamayim v'haaretz. Now, in the beginning, God creates the heavens and the earth, and this meditation that creation belongs to God culminates, if you like, well, I shouldn't say culminates, but it has this beautiful imagery of God creating the wondrous cosmos that we live, breathe, and have our being in. And light is created, the earth is brought forth, and ultimately humanity comes to be made in the image and likeness of God. And this idea that we are made in the image and likeness of God is then taken up in a second poem of creation, which effectively occupies Genesis chapters 2 and 3. And there we meet the famous Adam and the famous Eve. Adam is taken from the Adamah, and in a way, the best way of translating that would be to say God creates a clodman or a groundling from the earth. This idea that we are very earthy, very earthbound, made of dust and mud. Certainly if there's a chap in your life that you're struggling to get on with, have a bit of pity as a clodman. Deep down we are this clod-like nature. But in the poetry of Genesis 2 and 3, the breath of God's life is given to Adam, and so he becomes a living being. So this mixture of divine and human is in there. And this meditation on the nature of humanity then also takes in the notion of love and relationship, and man is not to be lonely, even though he's there in the garden in a paradise. He's alone, and none of the animals will suffice. So God makes him fall into a deep sleep, and one is brought to him who's like him. And it may surprise you, but the first words, if you like, of a human being in the scriptures are those of Adam, a rap to his beloved, bone from my bone, flesh from my flesh. This will be called woman, she was taken from man. Now, okay, that's not exactly 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg or Kanye West, but hey, it's a go. And the idea that humanity begins to communicate in love is right at the start of the revelation of the scriptures. Now, what happens then is we have this classic story of the temptation, that there's this fruit there that God said don't eat that fruit, but their appetite gets the better of them. And this idea that, they're already in the image of God, but the serpent tells them they want to be more like God. They mean more like God. And so you have this drama that these are gifted individuals, but they're challenged to choose the good. And in fact what they choose is their appetites. And what happens straight away is that they begin to fall out. They hide from God. They blame each other. This wonderful moment when God says to Adam, what have you done? And he says, the woman you you gave me, tempted me, and I ate. In other words, it's definitely not my fault. It's either your fault or their fault, and it's classic human behaviour. The poor woman is then challenged, and she says, it was a serpent who tempted me and I ate. It's this difficulty human beings have in taking responsibility. We see here this struggle between man and woman. And interestingly, part of the curse of the woman is that, yes, there will be pain in childbirth. The most amazing thing she does is going to be the most dangerous thing she does. But even worse, it seems to me, her desire will be for her husband, but he will lord it over her. Oh my goodness, we've got this situation where Clodman's in charge. Patriarchy is under review here. And for the man is estranged from the very soil from which he's been taken. It will be a struggle for him to live. Now, what has this got to do with us in terms of theology and Christian theology at that? Some very important themes here, some of which you'd recognise as religious and holy themes. The fact that humanity is made in the image of God, humanity in a sense ultimately belongs to God, is created by God in a creation that is to be cherished and looked after by human beings. But also there's this subtle theme of the drama of the gifted individual learning to choose the good. And you'll be more familiar, maybe, I don't know, with things like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, etc. And the reason why those dramas are so attractive to us is because in each case there is a gifted individual who could choose the wrong, who could choose bad, who could choose a different path, but has to find within themselves the strength and courage to choose the good. That is the perennial human storyline. Will we, with all our giftedness, choose the good or choose the bad? That's how, if you like, the drama of this library collection begins. This drama of what are human beings going to do? Made in the image of God, you've got choice, what are you going to do? Now, as we're going to find out, often they don't do the right thing. We don't do the right thing. But it's this call, this challenge right from the beginning to involve us in the story. This is what Adam and Eve did. What are you